want the good piece on top of the shell in it?
Everybody needs to get a piece. I don't know if you brought a hand lens or not, but everybody gets a piece.
I got something better. I use these reading glasses.
That's your stratigraphic column here. We're in the Sparta right here, and this is the Weches, or the Sparta is right up here, and this is the Weches that we're in right there. And this is the Weches shale. If you look in now, this is why I say you need your hand lens, because look in there and you'll find that this is a pellidal fossiliferous and if you go into some of these,
I'm gonna go give people some dirt. Would you like any, Linda?
The black part that you have there is basically a claystone with fossils in it, fossiliferous claystone with pellets. There are lots of all kinds of pellets in there and fossils. If you go up to when we talk about the ironstone layers, if you look back over there where the green light is, that's the ironstone that the stone fort is built out of. And as you go up this way, you come to a zone right here at the top, and if you look at that, that's it's a mix of sand and mud, and that comes out of the Sparta. That's the contact between the Sparta. Now we're going to walk down the other end and look at the Sparta up on top, and at about 2 stops down, we'll be picking up a piece of the Sparta. But when the Sparta, being an aquifer, introduced a lot of the water that went through, was very iron rich, and came down. Now the Sparta is part of what we call the Parent Delta, and all of you that are from over in central Texas realize that was a major Eocene delta that was built out here, and there are 2 different lobes to that delta. One on the north side of the Llano uplift, another one on the south, and this is the north side. Now this is where we have to have the discussion that I get in trouble with. How many are friends with Bob Folk?
Was.
You were?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get stoned before I'm finished with this. When I first came here, Bob Folk and Austin Sarton was the guy that I replaced that retired when I came, and he studied the Sparta and he studied the Queen City, and he showed that the minerals that were in there, the trace minerals that were present in there, the heavy minerals, all indicated they came from central New Mexico. Well, Bob Folk came in here with one of his PhD students and came to the conclusion that all of those minerals came from the southern Appalachians. And they had a big argument about that. I looked at the minerals that Sarton had, the heavy minerals that Sarton pulled out of there, and they matched perfectly to me to the ancestral Rocky Mountain stuff and the Rocky Mountain core segments that you had up there that were eroded from there, brought down and deposited in this delta. And what we're going to show you here, I always like Sarton's little simple diagram. If you look at it, these are prograding delta lobes in here, which came out and then were reworked by longshore currents to the material that we had. And then this represents the transgressive sequences that you have in here when sea level went up and deposited the Weches and the other shale units that we have in here that we're going to look at. And so this right here would have represented the shelf, and that what we're going to go down and look at in a minute would have represented the basically one of these prograding deltas that was reworked by longshore currents. If we had the entire day to drive around, look all over the county, I can I can show you washover fans, I can show you distributary channels in the Sparta, I can show you a lot of places like that. But we're just going to look at some of the Sparta and give you a feeling for it.
I thought some of the
They're very distinct salt joint sets in there. Now, I was teaching field methods, and we measured it.
But they got like calcite.
Iron.
You said Sparta's and
Interesting.
Had a lot of sand. So you had little periods of sand coming out in here. And this is really a additional to the clean quartz arenite that you got up there.
The Weches is a sand?
No, the
It's
Weches
clay.
is a clay.
Clay. Okay.
Is a, well, we could argue that it's a silty, sandy clay stone, and you
All right.
might have enough silt
Okay.
sand in there to make it a mudstone if you're
All right.
lucky.
Okay.
We don't really have a ravine in here. We just kind of have a transgressive systems tract here.
So what do you think, Charles?
So this is a really nice example. This is a shelf deposit, and then the Sparta sand is a part of a delta complex that's regressing and coming out over top. And there's a big ironstone down in the shelf deposit. In the shelf deposits.
That's real nice how it calmed down.
Yeah,
You know,
I knew Bob.
thank you. I know
first
it pretty well.
As far as that source, though, is there anything in the basin-wide morphology that would give you an idea of which way which direction the transport was from, or has it all been reworked too much?
Okay, now if I were to take you out to Cushing, which is a little small town out here, and take you on a farm to market road out there, there is a channel there where I could take you and we could spend the afternoon measuring cross-bedding, and by the time I got through with the afternoon, you'd see it was coming on an angle about like that.
And which direction?
It was coming from that direction, going that direction.
Okay.
That's what the channel cross-bedding.
Yeah.
I make the students do that.
Yeah, good. Good. Yeah.
So Natalie can testify of the direction of current out there by Cushing, right, Natalie?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she's had to do that, so that's just
Okay.
one of the places that we could go, but it takes about a half hour, 45 minutes to drive out there. Okay, and
So-
used to here about 35 miles. She taught kindergarten there. But over there, they mine the Weches for green rock. Now, I will tell you the sad story. I was president of the Nacogdoches Gun Club here for probably 15 years. The guys there said they wanted to coat the road going into the gun club with rock so that we wouldn't get stuck in the mud. Well, one of the guys that was in the gun club said, well, I know the guys over here at St. Augustine with this crushed green rock, and they'll give us a real deal on it, which they did. And all that did was make it worse. That green rock just came unglued, and it was the worst decision that I ever made.
Not quite the right
There's a difference between having olivine or glauconite.
Yeah, that's
and,
right.
This is mostly glauconite in the
It's a lot of glauconite.
That's sometimes the best teacher, right?
Now,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, I know it is for me.
Now, what are the features in this rock here?
Well, it's kind of fossiliferous, and you can see
Okay,
that's either like
finish here
I
then?
don't know, a
Any other last
plecipod or
questions?
something. You can see burrows too.
Okay, what
There's a
we're
lot
gonna
of
do
burrows,
is we're gonna go through
and
3
you can
red
kind of
lights
see the
up
little
here, and then
swirl
we're
in
gonna
that critter
turn
there, so
past
you
the
know
front of the Fredonia
that this was
Motel.
shallow
Straight-
enough that
that's
critters were
Hospital
living in
Street.
it,
We'll
that
be
it
on
probably
that.
had
And we'll go
oxygen.
straight past
Of course,
Hospital
it's
Street
got a
and then
reddish
south.
or ochre color, so that also indicates it was oxygenated.
So one question I do have is,
And so it's a really good porous and permeable rock because it's been bio-turbated, bio-worked over. So that's what makes these so amazing as aquifers and also as reservoirs.
Okay, let me go through and give my spiel, and then let all the archaeologists shoot me down. This is Mound Street, named after the fact that there's an Indian mound here. There's another couple on up the street that way. I just happened to choose this one because it's an easy place to park, and you can see the mound that's there. Now, in Caddo culture, and the Caddos occupied this area sometime around 1200 AD on up to the actual settling of Nacogdoches. in here. And basically in the cattle culture there are 3 different types of mound structures that are common. Mound structure number 1 is the burial structure, which is all of you Indiana Jones folks want to go and dig up and see what kind of stuff they buried with their dead. And those are the ones that are sought after by the hunters. Now the second type are the worship mounds, and the worship mounds are usually the highest ones that you have in a culture, and that's where you would go up on it as kind of a raniumptum, I guess is the side term that you would use for it, and that puts you closer to God so you could pray. And so that's the second type of mound you have. Now we go to the type of mound that we're on here, which is the living mound. And in any community what they would do is, if you look in your guidebook, you can see the little structure, the little huts they built like that.
With you.
And basically, I had one other one in here somewhere, one page back. Right here on page 17, you have the what they look like when they're finished, what the community would look like, and that's basically the distribution of the cattle culture. Now, depending on who you read, which source you got, and you people who are into archaeology are probably better at it than I am. Now, the place, if you want a good tour of the thing, is to go out to Caddo Indian Mounds, which is about 20 miles or 30 miles west of here, out near Alto, just a little bit west of Alto on 21. What?
Between Weches and Alto.
That's right. And what they do is, out there every so often they will construct one of these huts out there, and when it gets old, what the tradition was with the cattle is you'd go in and burn your house down and then build you another one. And my wife says that wouldn't be a good idea.
Insurance company might have something to say about that.
Well, anyway, that's what they did. And so most of the mounds you have here are living mounds, because a community had a whole bunch of living mounds in it, and very few, only a very limited number of burial mounds. And so that's why I bring people here, is to look at what the mounds are and look at Mound Street, which you have there. So that's I think a significant part of what we have here. Now, the other place that a lot of people are interested in, if my wife were here, she'd say I should talk about that building over there. That's the university building, and that was built, the university was first set up here in 1843, and that was really the center of learning in 1843 was right over there in that classroom building that you have there. And if you have time to come down when it's open, particularly, that's a good place to lose your wife for a good half a day. So, and that's the situation that you have. The other one, we passed that beautiful white church that's back over here. That's the Zion Hill Church that was there on the side of the cemetery. My wife went there for some kind of retirement tour 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it's a very famous building. Now, the other structure we have right here, that's I call it T.J. Rush High School, because that was the initial high school here in Nacogdoches. When I came here, that was the high school building. It's now a junior high school, and the new high school's out on the loop. What?
It's an elementary school now.
Is it an elementary school now?
Chamberlain building, that's Washington Square.
What do you know about Washington Square that I don't?
Probably nothing. I was on this campus for 25 years.
You were on that campus for that building there.
That building there is also a Civil War hospital.
Spectacular
you can't dig
museum.
over there unless you have a permit from SFA, because it's a lot of bed up there. You can see it's green. What is that? Anybody know?
Oh, it's a good piece right there.
No, what is this?
This is more of the Weches.
Dark,
You can see more
dark faces.
fossils inside of it. Actually, some of the. I don't even need a hammer for this. It's so soft as the rain.
And what kind of fossils are in there? Little clams?
If it wouldn't have rained, usually you can see them a lot better.
Ironstone again. This is ironstone.
It's oddly rhythmic.
Okay, let me go over. If you look carefully in here, this thing is chock full of fossils in there and chock full of pellets. You got lots of pellets and lots of fossils. Most of the fossils are bivalves, as typical shelf. Now, when we were talking earlier about lenses of sand in here, can I very nice? But what you're doing is, as you're going up, you can see that you got shallow water sands coming in here. Basically, the lithologies right here are quartz wackies that you have interbedded with the shales as you go into the Sparta. And we'll see our next stop. Natalie lives up there on the Sparta, and she can tell you that our next stop's in the Sparta above where she lives. So that's where we're headed next, right up on top of the hill in there. And the other thing is there are lots of glauconitic pellets, particularly in here. When you look at what the locals use for building stone, they like those units right in here, and they like the slab stones they get out of these units right up there. And if you want to build your house out of it, out of the Weches. And I suspect where you live, they built houses out of the Weches too, did they not?
Yes, sir, they did.
They did, out of the ironstone and the Weches, because it was a very...
we aren't as thick bedded as the consistency
Does it
of
hold
your
up
thick
well?
beds are much.
They looked down there at the stone fort and answer that question.
Oh, okay. You just have to find it when it's really indurated.
You find it, what the locals did was they came and they found units like this one right here, this very well iron cemented.
Oh, I see.
And a lot of them, the locals would get this stuff right here and front their houses with it.
Okay.
If you go over to Rusk, you'll see a lot of the houses in Rusk, the old houses are fronted with that stuff right up there. Now, the thing of it is, when it weathers, whatever color the old stone fort is, I would say brown.
Rusty.
But anyway, that's the color it weathers to.
Sure.
And a lot of people think that's a very beautiful building stone that you have there.
It's not bad.
And this is one of the best sections that we have here. Now, there are a couple of things. In the guidebook, I've got a picture here showing the fossils in the Weches. And here is one taken right here on a sunny day. On a sunny day, this is a lot more tan than it is right now. And in some places, it's very sandy. It'll actually be really a sandy mudstone rather than a sandy clay stone in there, particularly up there near the top. Now, the second story that I have to set up here has to deal with what you've got on page 20. On page 20, this is what you're saying in there. And that was right down beyond that building right there. We had this big block of the Weches come down. And
My apartment building.
literally destroying. You can see it's undermined the apartment building. As a result of that, they came through, and you can see the pipes that they put in here to try and drain the water out of the Weches so that it would not slump. Now, let me give you a little bit of history on this thing. When he was going to school here, the University Drive wasn't here yet, was it? No. And I'm going to lie to you and say about 79 or 80. Is that correct? Is that the way you remember it? They built University Drive along here. Well, what that did was it made this very valuable commercial property because they were putting the mall in back up the road here. And so they came in and they mined this away and built this steep slope. And what they've had ever since is they've had this thing slumping down. Now, I have to tell a story on a couple of my students. I was teaching a freshman level geology course, and I had these two girls that were kind of interested in geology that were sitting on the second row. And I was talking about the fact that you didn't want to park your car near this bank here. And this one little girl raised her hand. She says, you know, Dr. Nielsen, I've been working down at this auto parts store down here now for 2 years, and I've been parking my car right here behind it, and not a thing has happened to it. Well, if you told me that, what's going to happen to you 3 days later?
Yeah.
About a week later, her buddy that sat right next to her came and said, well, you need to ask her what happened to her car. What happened was a rock like that one came down off and lit right on her hood. Totally demolished the hood. So what they did is lately they've been putting up fences and things to try and protect it. But if you happen to be unemployed and decide to come and work at one of these businesses, you don't want to park your car right next to that cliff, I can guarantee it.
Laurel, are there any
Layers, maybe finding up. Any comments? And then where would the contact be?
The contact is right there at the base of that tree.
those roots?
When we get up on the other side, I can show you we'll walk up and look at the contact. Okay, now let's talk about. Okay, let's answer your first question first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this has been interpreted basically as a pro-delta channel that came off feeding into deep water. And then here, as sea level continued to, as the delta continued to prograde out here, these are sheet sands that become more and more and more common till you go into the Sparta above there.
Right.
So what you're looking at, this would have been high sea level right here. This is a major transgression. That would be a high stand. And then this is regressing back out that way, and you're heading toward a lower systems tract there.
Yeah.
Very good.
So this is just one of those odd in front of the delta where you had one of those channel sands with dense water bringing the sand down to it. And that's why I brought you here, was to really see that channel.
Yeah.
And then look at the cyclicity as you can see, just about see the delta prograding out into the deeper water right there.
Okay.
And you have a little surge of
getting
sand.
finer as you move up.
This gets coarser, that gets coarser, and then when we get over on the other side, it's even coarser
So
yet.
it's getting coarser.
Yeah, it's an upward coursing sequence. In here.
Okay, all right.
And as you go up this way, you see right in here, you start to
Yeah.
get the change where you're getting sands coming off from the delta out into shallow water.
So
out
the
front.
source is sort of changing.
The source is changing.
Okay, that's what got me. Okay, thank you. All right,
So
I got it.
The source is, the sand is coming in this way. And this was just one of those channels that was out in front of, that one of those shallow channels out in front of the delta.
I totally follow you now. Thank you.
In there. So that's very typical of what it is.
I woke up one day to him giving a
And that's a
talk.
hunk of it that's come down right
Am
there.
I dreaming of Dr. Nielsen?
I had another hunk down here the other day.
I didn't touch them. I saw them whenever I left my apartment.
I was wondering about that.
Wow, it's very red.
It's quite friable.
Everybody gets a piece. Some iron in the freezer. Grab a piece.
Yeah, you have to treat it a little bit, so that's okay. What? Hi. There you are.
There's no
Careful, it'll break.
It does, yes. There we go. We're passing out communion wafers here. Let's see.
Now you're gonna have to go wash your hands.
It's yeah.
It looks like it's got uranium in it. It's got the same color as uranium.
It'll still play hell with a mill tooth bit.
First time I had another stop in here, and the powers that be, namely Julie and Williamson, sent me a thing back and said I ought to take it out. And since all of you guys seem to be so interested in the Sparta, I really need to take you up to this next spot. Would you object to adding one stop to the trip?
No, never.
We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so
Yeah, more stops is better.
I think we need to go up and take you over and look at real good Sparta in there. Here's one set that comes in, and then deposition was cut off, and you had a period of quiet water, and then you had your next set come in with a period of quiet water.
Okay. The quiet's the clay.
The deposits the clay.
Okay. Got it.
So you're well up into the Sparta. This was what they're, if you go out to where we started talking about, out the oil springs,
Yeah.
this is the kind of stuff you see out there. This is what they were while they were producing oil.
Okay, the one
and
you showed us.
If I take you out there today, the only difference is the sand has oil in it.
Okay.
And it's a tar sand is what it
Okay.
I will say it's a tar sand.
Okay. So it's like it's sort of the petroleum itself is immature.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. All right.
It's not super good oil.
Okay. So it's never deep.
No.
Okay.
This was never
All right.
deep.
Okay.
What kind of environment would you put on this? I mean, detail, what kind of environment do you see as
I see
almost
this
like
as
a sand flat or
this
something?
Is a delta plane. Is a delta coming out, and this is a series of distributary delta channels in here out in front of the delta.
I don't really see a channel in here particularly. I mean, you're seeing much more even bedding with clay drapes, you know, which makes you wonder.
Anybody want any clay?
Yeah.
You can make little figurines out of it. So cool.
Get it in the mail, and there's this giant hand lens.
That works for your carbonate.
I really like that.
I know.
Where
Objects in your pictures are
Somewhere
bigger than they
online,
appear.
somewhere online, I got this, but it's great for us senior citizen geologists. So.
I've never found that out here.
Use it for scaling metal.
Yes, that's true. You could screw up. That's what geologists
Plucked off the
mind.
top.
Oh yeah,
Golly.
it shows the
So it's
drainage
just up in the wash shelf there.
Gather up, guys. You gotta come see the tooth.
Tooth? He found a mammoth tooth. I've never found that here. Neither has Dr. Nielsen. He's been here probably a million times.
What did we find? A tooth?
Yeah.
Nicholas has it.
Right there. We found it back up here.
Oh wow, cool.
Kidding.
Who found it?
I did.
Oh, you get an A+.
Yeah.
Man, you get the gold star.
Yeah.
My wanderings
up on top.
There you go. That's my
Mammoth tooth.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I don't know that I would have even recognized that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I've been here a lot of times.
Are you a paleontologist?
I had some
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's hard to say, right? I mean, could it be Pleistocene and it came after the fact when it was uplifted rather than deposited? Who knows, right? There's some uncertainty, I guess. Hey, yeah, that fits. Perfect.
That's the bottom.
Wait, let me get
That's
that. I got to get a picture of that. Do that again. I got to get a picture of that.
Which way does it go?
That's down. This is up. Over there, kind of where he's at over there. It was just kind of sticking out on the side though. We'll look at the rest of it. Oh, it's bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of these little shell things from first.
Okay, I'm going to start right here with our diagram that I started out of the very first on page 8. Here is the Sabine uplift right here. Here is the Mount Enterprise Elkhart fault system right here cutting into it, and we're standing right in that area right there. So here's the Sabine uplift, here is the Mount Enterprise fault system, so that we're all on the same page. Now I turn over to the next one right here, which shows the salt diapirs for our area, and if I come down here, you notice there's a salt diapir that appears right down this road right here. Now that salt diapir plays a big role in the discussion that we have here, because no matter which way I give this thing, there's going to be somebody that disagrees with one side or the other. Okay, so the first thing in order to get this salt diapir to develop is that we had some seismic lines down here through the center of that salt diapir, which showed that you did have dissolution there and you did have collapse of that salt diapir. So we have good evidence that the salt was dissolved and this graben was controlled by salt diapirism. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. Now if I go back over here to the other one, for second. The other thought that goes with it is that this is a old block here that has been slightly rotated like that, and the rotation of that block allowed this graben to open. Now, I have some problems with that particular model. The problem I have with that rotation model is that if that were the case, you should see other stuff over further in the Sabine uplift that's there. There's no doubt that is a old block that probably goes way back into the rifting between North America and South America, and that block was isolated that way, and I have no doubt that that's there. But whether that produced this particular uplift or not, or particular graben, I don't know. Now, I want to flip now back to the page where we are.
So you're saying because you don't see any grabens with the opposite sense on the other side.
The opposite side. If you have it on one side, you know, you start arguing over here, is that part of it, and that's part of the argument that goes with it. So no matter which side you align on,
What's the motion here is post-Sparta? What would be the signaling light?
the mechanism is the problem.
Yeah, that is obviously a terrain.
There's good evidence supporting both sides. Okay, so that's the big picture. Now if I go over to the map on page 26 in here, this is showing the entire Mount Enterprise, I'm going to call it graben system, because we're looking at half of that, the graben, the other half's over by Elkhart in there. I've only, the more I put in, the smaller it got. And so that's the situation that we're looking at. When you look at the actual graben, you can see it going up into that block right there. You can see the thing coming up into there, into the Mount Enterprise graben system coming up there, and looking at it. Now, let's go over to the next page.
Where are we on this?
We're right now. If you go over to the next page, now you're to the point where you can read it. Okay. So here we are, right here on that intersection, right there, on the Mount Enterprise fault system. Now, what that does for us is that this hill that you have in front of us right there, if you look up the road, that is the fault scarp that we have for the Mount Enterprise. Now, since we see no slicking lines, there's no evidence of any, all you see is that hill that's right there. And basically, if you look down the other way, you can see the hill on the other side down beyond the Angelina, East Fork of the Angelina River down there. That's where the graben structure really is. Now, here, the major fault, Mount Enterprise fault system was right up I-84, which is right up this street right here. Now, the buildings that you see over there, you go around the foundation of those buildings, and walking around there, you'll recognize that basically that is Weches Formation that you see underneath that building. If you go across the street over here, you've got the Queen City sand that's on this side of the street, and so it's very easy to see how the state mapped the thing. The Queen City is, it's like this. If this hand is Weches, the Weches is sitting against the Queen City. You know, the Weches is dropped down against the Queen City. The Queen City's older, so you started with the Weches here, and it was dropped down and protected, like that. So that's.
But the map's showing it down to the south on the fault. Is that according to the
the main
this
fault?
one? No, that's south of us. Yeah, but we're up here.
We're up
Yeah, we're up there.
See, it's on that fault.
Right.
Yeah, it's showing down
See,
to the
we're on
south
that
to the
fault
east
right
of
here.
us,
We're on
which
that
I think
fault
is
right there, right?
There's something funny about that, the way that's mapped.
Okay.
I'm not sure I believe it.
Now we're getting to that point where we're going to get to the real problem in it.
How do you map this stuff anyway? Right?
That's right.
With any reliability, you know.
It's
tough.
You're going around looking for sand in a
ant
hole.
hills, foundations.
That's right. Yeah. This
soil.
is not $high thing.
Yeah.
But we go over to the next page. everybody wants to question is the what's right in here.
No, but that's
Here
not
is
right either.
a sketch of the best I can do for coming up with what this thing is. Now, the thing that bothers me most about making this thing
What's
work
wrong with this?
is that
Yeah.
you have Weches right here, and you have Queen City back up there where that yellow dollar sign is on the scarp. So it's got you've got to have a tilt like this on this thing, and to make the cross section work, which is creates
Then you
a
got
problem.
Queen City down in the valley.
Yeah, Queen City down here.
So it's got to be down to the north, not down to the
So
south.
now you start getting into the thing.
Or it's a reverse fault.
Is it a?
Let's not get
what,
into that.
what are you having happen here?
Yeah.
And every
very
time I
peculiar.
come here with people, I get roasted because
Well,
I can just. We take the map that we've got there, and you know that is, I can take you over there, and we can spend all afternoon walking around there finding Weches. We can come over here and we check all the ant hills over here, and it's Queen City.
Right.
And we go up on that hill up where the dollar store is, and you got Queen City. So we know that's what the lithologies are that are here. Now we got to make sense of that.
Are you sure this is Queen City and not Sparta?
No, we're pretty sure it's Queen City.
Okay.
At least I'll support the Queen City. If you want to
asking,
argue with me, that's fine. We can go out.
I'm not saying it's not.
Queen City is a lot. I consider having a much deeper orange color to it.
Got more of the iron.
More of the
bleaching
iron
down into it.
Now, anybody that wants to jump on me, that's fine, because we're
I don't know
here.
what Queen City looks like over here. So
anyway, if you look at this, we definitely
There's
have to
something wrong
have this situation going that way in order to get the thing coming out right. It doesn't work.
Nope.
So
you got a reverse fault there. Looks like, or something. That's curious.
Well,
yeah, interestingly inconsistent.
That's like
mapping in here.
the story that goes here.
Yeah.
And if you go down here to
Well,
just
that'll-
after you on this side of the northeast fork of the Angelina River, you have the same kind of problem right in there. Now I'm going to go back and give you my thoughts on it. The thought is that this thing dropped, this area over there dropped down like that, and that fault has to be dipping that way in order to get if you look at the map on the previous page in here, the fault they've got running through here, this fault right here that runs right through this intersection right there, basically that fault in here has dropped Weches and Sparta down against the Queen City in here in a lot of places. But the thing had to rotate. It didn't come straight down. It had, in order for Queen City to be up there on that hill where it is, you didn't. Now the explanation that comes along with that is that you had this block. If this is a salt dissolution feature, then this thing warped down instead of dropped down. And how much of this is due to warping is a good question. And there's still a lot of, we need to run a bunch of seismic lines across it to really fully interpret it. But I'm open to any suggestions to go with it.
It's peculiar.
That's why I bring people up here, so that they get upset at me and tell me that.
Well, if you just take their mapping, that fault would be down to the south over here. It'd really be down to the north here and down to the south over in here.
That's right.
Which makes it a strike slip fault, right, or something. I don't know. It might be really bizarre. So it's just something very peculiar.
The state map that I put in here does not work out at all.
Yeah.
And
what is the most detailed mapping in here?
It's the best map that I can find in here. And that's why I bring people here. Everybody asks me, what do you know about the Mount Enterprise fault system? I know that it's a jumbled mess.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I'll vote for that. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's wrong.
Here to this one right here, where they got this up and that down. And when you get up the top of the hill, go beyond the top of the hill that you can see there, because if you look at this splits right up at the top of the hill, and if you drop down here, the Carrizo comes up this other fork right here of Ham Creek, right there, and the state mapped the fault coming this way down through that drainage right there, and I think that fault has to go this way to put the Carrizo up here And basically down here, you're looking at something different.
No, that's the positive arm of that purple point that you're
That's right.
in front of you. The drainage is failed on.
That's right, the drainage is the failed arm. Yeah. But anyway, that's why I wanted to end the trip here, because I knew no matter which way I put it, I always find the guy that likes the other way better.
right.
I happen to think that
Completely agnostic.
there's a lot more salt down there, or was salt down there, than is mapped.
Yeah.
That small salt structure that they did the seismic on the drill, they didn't, on either side of it, they didn't go there, probably because the salt was dissolved away.
Have you looked at your gravity maps?
I've looked at some of the gravity maps, and they'd tell me that the salt was gone.
Oh, they did, didn't they?
That's right.
That's why I asked you. If it
And
was
that's
gone.
why, but I can't, now I'm going to go back on the other side and say, how do I know the salt was there before the gravity, and dissolved? So, there are a lot of questions that center here. What
about how deep a seismic do we have to shoot to really understand that fact? I mean, do we have to mob and
So this is the Mount Enterprise Fault Zone.